Right. Let's see if we are back.
New thing or same thing? Same link? New link?
Publicly, or with it'll be a different link publicly.
Okay.
I'm just trying to see if you can hear us. Drop something in the chat because then I'll be able to see that. But I'm not seeing any indication
I
that
see a
there is current.
thing.
Oh,
I see a this.
yeah, it looks like we are.
So I gotta take that, I gotta put it elsewhere. Back to LinkedIn.
Yes, there we go. Look at that. Right.
Here we go. I've updated mine.
I can no longer get into any of the how is your live stream doing stuff on YouTube, which is helpful. So if I go to QB Analytics, there we go. Right, okay, I think that is now actually working.
It's a win.
Hopefully everyone can re-find that. I have no idea what just went wrong then.
Did you like have to restart, or was it just?
No, we just seemed to completely go down, but that's okay. We're back now. We can carry
All
on.
right. Carry on.
Awesome, yes.
Quick recap. We were making fun of Tom's tie.
Yep, obviously.
And you have this wonderful screenshot, by the way. Like you got to see this. And I'll try to set this up in such a way. This is you. This is how you froze. Like that's pretty incredible. That's incredible.
That is impressive. I now suspect that the White Hag Brewing Company may be responsible for the freeze. It's just a very long advert.
Yeah, that was amazing. That is screen caps. I will find a way to distribute that, and we will turn that into. That'll be turned into a meme.
Absolutely.
It'll be turned into an ad.
I at least know a good number of people.
Yeah, I know a number of people who won't use that screenshot.
But yes,
anyway,
I was saying, so I'm enjoying the last few beers out of the box sent by a member of the Patreon. So we have Hopstravaganza, a hazy IPA, and we have Judicious Juicy Ale by Kirkstall Brewing.
cool.
These they've been very nice. These beers, I must say, very very nice indeed. And I am once again using my my wooden The Hobbit mug.
Nice.
Carved by my dad, largely because I got feedback from my family saying I don't use it enough. Because as it turns out, they now watch this occasionally.
Hey, there you go.
So that's great.
And that starts a question.
There's
a question.
Cool. Go for it. Yeah.
Also, for the recap, for those you see, I've got Misfit Red, Mythmaker Brewing. That's not the brewery. This is actually Dewclaw Brewing out in Baltimore, Maryland, who made the beer. But
see, them I've heard of.
Right up the street. Anyway, that's what we got.
Hey, Luke, glad you made it back to the news stream.
Yep. I haven't even had it. I haven't even sipped this yet. I'm waiting for the cheers.
I know, right? I'm just pouring. These IPAs aren't my thing. They froth a lot.
You pour them differently. All right.
Yeah, thing is, when you're used to pouring stouts where you could tip the can upside down, having just shaken it for 20 minutes and it still wouldn't fizz.
Yeah.
Otherwise known as the way beer is supposed to be.
Yeah. Welcome to the incorrect draft update.
Well,
every episode is going to come up with another way to say it.
Cheers. Anyway, have to wait a while for this froth to go down.
Cheers, sir. There we go. All right.
So yes, everyone's here. Awesome. Hello, Phil. Nice to have you. Yeah,
News did a thing.
Yeah, let's dive straight in. We've got some cool stuff coming up. You picked up on a topic that weirdly is kind of related to me, without me bringing it up, which is cool. I'm really excited about that. It means it's actually doing its job. Um, that's kind
Right.
of
Well, there
cool.
you go.
And we've got some EdTech updates, obviously. Storyline has done some useful stuff, which is not something we say very often. But we'll come back to
They
that
can
later.
they continue down the useful stuff
I know,
thing, which is
right?
cool.
It's weird. Okay, so yeah, why don't you kind of raised the learning news topic first and foremost? So by all means, take the lead on it.
So you're gonna know more. You'll know more about like the details because you were part of it. I kind of got the general, which I looked at this
Ooh.
and it's a domino effect, which I want to bring up. It's like we saw this come. It's one of those like I feel like everybody saw this coming. At least everybody who watched this podcast.
Yeah.
All right. So the headline specifically reads 66%. This is from the Learning Network. 66% struggle to advance in the learning industry. The Learning Network calls for change. They did a survey. And this, I don't know how many specific questions there were in this survey, but basically what they kind of landed on is that professionalizing the learning industry would add like a ton of value, almost to the point where it almost feels like it's like desperately needed. I'll read the specific paragraph that I gravitated towards. This year's research study from Learning Network revealed only 25% of participants thought it was easy to find qualifications and experiences they need to drive impact, with only 34% believing it's easy to progress in the learning industry. That's where your headline comes from.
Mm-hmm.
They went for the bigger number. They spun it for the bigger number. 91% think professionalizing the learning industry would add value, which to me reads, and I'll need your help on this one. I read this as getting in is one thing, actually like progressing and being better is not a thing that exists too much, and it's a struggle. That's how I read that. I don't know what your bumper sticker version of that is, because you're a little bit more closely tied to this.
Yeah. So do you know what I took away? I think those are big stats that I think we all already kind of knew, but I think the scale of it is what surprised me. I think there is a greater acknowledgement now of the fact that what we've got is not cutting the mustard. Realistically, we're in a space where what is the requirement to call yourself an L&D professional? That you do.
You don't want me to answer that.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah, there is. It's great that we want people to join the industry. We want to make it, and so we want to make it easy. But we want to make ourselves an open industry, but no standards at all means that we have no actual way of saying, is this person good at what they do or not, whether they're new, highly experienced, whatever. It also means we lack a fundamental foundation of knowledge. You can never assume in our industry that, well, everyone knows learning styles aren't real, the forgetting curve is largely bollocks, and 70-20-10 is somewhere in between the two of them. Instead, these are debates within our industry, despite the fact that the science is incredibly obvious. It's just that our industry isn't based on fact.
I'm going to add, I'm going to share a story a little later that pissed me off this last week, but it's not even that they're debates, it's that they're also selling tactics.
Yes.
And that's why I was like, this is a domino effect. We all saw this coming when we were talking about, we've got the teachers coming in, we got the academies, we got all these people who are setting standards who've never seen them in play. There's no way to validate based on what we have, but they're the only thing you have. So naturally, it makes perfect sense that a whole bunch of the industry would look and be like, yeah, once you're in, like, there's nothing for you. Well, duh. There wasn't a lot bringing you in the first place.
Absolutely. I see Luke sent in a question, actually. Anything about stress or well-being in the industry? Not in the headline releases, but there is. So just to explain where this research is at the moment, because as Joey said, it's being conducted with and on behalf of the Learning Network. So to put it out there ahead the head of this conversation. I'm currently on the board for the Learning Network. It's a voluntary position. I make no money from it, but it's probably worth bearing that in mind when I tell you this is a fantastic study and that everyone should be really excited about it. On the upside is no one's going to be charged when the study is finally released in full. Anyone's going to be able to look at it. It's being carried out not by us, but by a company called People's Star, who we work with to do research. They do this research every year. A big section of it does actually look specifically at the impact of hybrid and working from home over the last couple of years on people's stress, anxiety around the workplace. Some of the biggest areas that it actually picks up on is that people are worried about the fact that they've stagnated. Seems to be a big one. So when the full research results and stuff come out, there will be stuff on that. They haven't been released just yet. Everything that's currently being discussed is the early release of just initial findings. Thus, a lot of it at the moment is headline numbers, not and this means da 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 da.
Right.
That's why I think it was May that the headline facts were initially revealed to members of the Learning Network. They've gone out on Learning News in kind of June, July. It'll be the end of the year before the final research pack is kind of like, and here it is in full. So they take their time to really get that stuff right. One interesting and I think somewhat related part of that is how L&D loves to spend all this time talking about EDI or BEDI or ED&I or all these different acronyms we've got for diversity and inclusion training. And yet a survey of everyone who answered was an L&D professional. Just 2% strongly agree the learning industry attracts new talent from diverse backgrounds. Only 2%.
I don't know what I want that to look like, though. I guess it's kind of the weird one. Because I guess I would follow up with like, was there? All right. This is the problem with being white, is you can't exactly see it. Like, I don't know how you would do that. Of like, hey, women. Hey, I'm not. This is the part I'm not great at. Like, how do you market an industry?
Yeah, I think how do you measure it? But I think if only 2% of an industry that spends an awful lot of time talking about diversity and inclusion, not saying that's inherently a bad thing. I'm just saying we can't claim, it's not top of mind, because clearly it is.
Yeah.
But only 2% of that same industry felt, whether it's accurate or not, felt confident enough to strongly agree that we're recruiting from diverse backgrounds. That's a problem. Because it shows that we're talking about it, but equally we know, or at least it seems that we are not at all confident that we're doing it, which has always been my concern in that space within L&D, is there is a lot of talk and a lot of content creation, but very rarely any action. The content creation almost gets treated as if it is action, as if creating an anti-racism course is anti-racism, or creating a or creating an anti-slavery course somehow solves the anti-slavery problem in a business.
That's kind of an American thing.
It's not just, and that's the thing. I think it is widespread in our industry, and it's not saying that, again, that content creation in those spaces is bad, that we don't have a part to play. We do. I just think this, to me, and it's only my reading of it, but it does highlight the gap between what we say and what we, when we're anonymous and answering questions honestly, hopefully, what we think. And that worries me a little bit, and surprised me, if I'm honest. Because in my personal experience, I actually think we do have quite a diverse range of backgrounds in the L&D space. Certainly, prior to this, I've worked in sales, customer service, stuff like that. Much more diverse than those spaces. Like,
what was the exact reading? Sorry, what was the exact reading of that question?
I haven't got the questions in front of me. All will be released in the full release pack. As I said, these are just headline figures.
I'd be really curious what
none
that
of the
question actually was, because I don't know what success would look like for a question. It's like, do you think
so
we're doing a good
yeah,
job with it? It's like, well, what were you looking for? As well as what metrics do you have action? You know,
yeah.
what can you even look at that determines whether or not we're successful in that?
So a
Like
lot of
I would be curious how many people would feel, do you believe that ID is welcoming? Or on the flip side, do you feel that it pushes away diversity inclusion? Like I'd want to figure that. Like, is the tone bad?
Yeah, no, so this is strongly agree that the learning industry attracts new talent from diverse backgrounds. So the way it was set up is that you agreed or disagreed with statements. So no final thing is based on a single statement. It's based on,
Okay, that makes
data
sense.
across kind of exactly to avoid that kind of the question guiding the answer.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah,
it-
it's hard to
it's
come up with something that isn't leading.
exactly. I think that's where you've kind of got to do the, agree, disagree spectrum, because it
Mhm.
allows for that nuance. Again, I think it's not necessarily a kind of, well, that's it, we're all terrible and the industry's bad. I actually just think it's that everyone's scared to say, no, actually, we've done quite a good job here. Because I think everyone's a little bit scared that if you say, no, actually, do you know what? We do a pretty good job of bringing in diverse groups of people into our industry, that people are going to go, it could be better though. You're like, yeah, of course it could. Everything could always be better. Um,
Right.
but I think,
I'm making sure this isn't just me.
let me see what I can do about that. I think I know what it will be. Uno momento. How's that?
We'll
Hopefully
find out.
that's a little bit clearer for you. Isn't
far
today
from it.
just a day of tech problems?
From you,
I know, right?
of all people, it's
It's,
you.
yeah, weird
Anyway,
one. But yeah, so I think that's going to be more. It's only my gut feeling. I don't know, but I
Mhm.
feel like there is a fear around being confident on this stuff and saying, no, actually, we do a good job. Could everyone do better at everything all the time? Yeah, of course they can.
Mhm.
But it doesn't mean that we have to, I think, for instance, only 2% of people strongly agreeing that the industry attracts new talent from diverse backgrounds. Either everyone in this survey, which I know is not the case, works in really backward facing workplaces.
Sure.
I don't believe that because it was a fairly sizable study. Or everyone is scared of saying, yeah, we're good at this. Because there's this, I don't know, there is an equivalence created sometimes between being confident that you're doing the right thing and the fact that the world isn't perfect.
Yeah.
And I just
Yeah, you're
wonder
not
if
wrong.
that's,
Or
it's one of those.
It's
It's
such
a,
a
it's a
bad
challenging area though, right?
Yeah, it's one of those questions that, like, I don't even know. I don't even know how you would create something that would come across as fair for that. Because
Yeah,
that
it
even
is
that in
tricky.
its vague stance doesn't sound like it's kind of fair to what it is, which is still going to be where my point's at. But like, how do you judge? How do you gauge? How do you like, how do you attract? And that's the issue with attracting, right? The issue with attracting diversity and inclusivity is a weird line between inclusivity and virtue signaling.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is the issue that we have. This is for us. We've got affirmative action, which is one of those, like, it's a weird line between, is it simply to invite or is it to create a is it to adjust priority?
Yeah. And I think
And it's
certainly, like in the UK, we don't have that, for instance.
yeah, you don't,
It's
which is
no,
great.
yeah. I think it's one way of trying to solve a very specific problem.
Mhm.
I think it's an odd one. So he had a similar blow up in the UK recently, because there was a suggestion that a part of the armed forces was engaging in, we call it positive discrimination, where you prioritize certain groups ahead of others. It's illegal, because
Yeah,
it's discrimination. So and they weren't, obviously, but the news
mhm.
will be the news.
It's
And
more
it
fun to
kind
say
of
bad things are happening.
exactly, yeah. But it was interesting, I think, to hear that just hear that from an industry that is so often talking about these important issues, to just hear about that lack of confidence in our own standing was, I don't know, I think a little bit of a surprise for me. I have shared a link there to
Yeah.
a post from the Learning Network, obviously, detailing some of the findings of the article's called "Supercharging: The Gift That Just Keeps Giving," and this contains a lot of the final findings from the previous study because it's done every year. The idea to give you this kind of consistent picture. And it gives some really interesting kind of ideas of where we were, and then we can sort of compare it to these figures.
Oh my God. I'm looking at the graphic on the bottom.
Yes, that's what I was about to say. At the bottom, there is some kind of really key headline sort of numbers out of the previous survey. Which one were you sort of surprised by?
Oh, it's not surprise. It's more just the continuing, man, how many times have we talked about this? 69% of respondents feel confident. 89% of these unable to quantify impact.
Yeah, it does make you wonder, if you're unable to quantify impact, why are you confident?
Well, that's the standard. That's what
Yes.
happens when you're in corporate life. It's not a matter of did it work, it's a matter of did they complete it. Like, you're talking about the irony of the DEI questions, and I'm looking at the irony of the fact that 91% of a training industry thinks the problem with the training industry is that there's not enough training for the training industry.
Yeah,
which is professionalization.
I think there's an interesting question there, because in the our chairperson Gemma Wells, fantastic L&D professional. If you want someone in the in the industry to follow, who doesn't sensationalize stuff, just does really cool work and talks about it, great person. She did that interview with Jane, who leads the company doing the research, and they were talking about how professionalization does not really just mean more training. Like, prime example, when I decided I wanted to get into the L&D industry here in the UK, I went and spent a lot of time and a lot of money doing a bunch of CIPD courses, the Chartered Institute for Personnel Development. Really, their realm is HR, but they've also kind of stuck their fingers into L&D. Therefore, the courses were exactly what you'd expect from HR training L&D. But they are the standard. Having your kind of CIPD was a bit like the having, I think in America, you've got ATD qualifications and stuff like that. They seem to be a lot better, if I'm honest, having looked at them, in that training professionals seem to be involved in them, which is an interesting move. I like that. It was not the feeling I got from my courses. Well, let's put it this way. We're only talking a decade ago, and learning styles were 100% the thing in that course. Vitally important. I've probably spent a good couple of months learning about, learning objectives and, all that sort of stuff, to find that, not really what the job's about. So
that's elements of that foundation.
Kind of the problem we have.
Yeah.
Is that the course, it's not that we need just more training blanket. We need better quality stuff, and we need something that is universal. We need a standard that says, if someone is a quote unquote, we don't need to be qualified in the degree sense, but a qualified, I don't know, instructional designer, they will have this foundational knowledge because it is universal. A bit like, when a doctor says they know something, or a teacher goes and learns how to teach, there is a foundation that if they've attained a teaching degree or a doctorate or whatever, they know or can do the following things.
I'll give you that.
We're kind of lacking that. We've got, because you have to look online, we've got plenty of courses, from whether it's CIPD or online academies or boot camps or Udemy or God knows what else we've got springing up in the industry. We have no shortage of training for people in L&D. It's just of very questionable quality.
Yeah. I mean, I still think I've got the thing that with teaching, the teaching degree, is that I don't know how well that works, partly because having a teaching degree doesn't exactly mean that you're a good teacher.
No.
And that comes up constantly, and it comes up in a really bad way, because you have the foundational, just general understanding of how to do it, and then you have the ability to adapt to the realities of it, which is the problem that we had with teachers coming into ID, and
Yes.
thinking that same ideas and same concepts of like curriculum development we're going to translate, and they don't, and that leads to the problem we have now. So I don't know. I think you're right. There should be a baseline. I just don't know if that baseline is purely foundational. I don't know if I would make it like I would want to add adjectives to that. HR instructional design versus application instructional design, technical instructional design. Like,
yeah, I don't, and that's why I don't necessarily think that a degree style approach is the right way to do it. I just think we need some level of standardization.
Hello.
Hey, Kara, how you doing? You've dodged all the technical challenges. Congratulations. Nothing has worked.
No, you're like we're talking about like, is there a universal baseline for just general instructional design that we can find, that we can align people to? And I assume from there it branches out. Like, then you branch out.
This is it, because my thinking is actually to start broader than instructional design. Actually, just look at, if you want to professionalize the corporate learning space, you need to initially go broader than instructional design. I think instructional design is always going to be no one used to know what the hell it was. Now it's the job roll up in lights that everyone wants, because it's just so goddamn awesome to be an instructional designer. I don't quite know why, but I'm sure it is apparently.
I'm the wrong person to talk about that, as I am like inching my way out and hilariously doing exactly what I'm doing to educate my marketing team on things.
Do you know what? It's interesting that so many people who are kind of this is what it's like to be an instructional designer. We are all moving away from being instructional designers. Like, as quickly as we can. It's quite interesting. The number of people that I've worked with that were awesome IDs. Some of them are here today, that have left the industry because they've moved on to do something else. It's almost scary, the numbers, whilst others kind of are so desperate to get in. Nothing wrong with that. But anyway, my point was I think it's too much focus on that. And the idea that if instructional designers were universally awesome, then everything would get better, and it wouldn't. You need the L&D world to get better, from facilitation-based trainers to e-learning developers, instructional designers, coordinators, L&D managers, all the weird job roles that get added in that are company or industry specific. I feel like below that ID space, there is a fundamental understanding of, if you're going to work in L&D, you need to understand learning, and then you need to understand workplace learning. And then you go into all your specifics around ID versus development versus being an LMS admin or whatever.
Yeah, you just brought up an interesting thing that made me think for a sec, which was, you were talking about, like, people are like really trying to, people are really trying to get in right now. And I was thinking, like, how exactly are we attracting those groups? And I was trying to think of, like, all the times I'm looking at XYZ posts of, instructional design is a great industry to get in and what they specifically focused on, of which I can't think of one where the work itself was actually the thing that got people excited.
Nope.
It was just like the fact that it exists, it's booming. That was what we saw in COVID, that there are jobs there, that they pay more than you as a teacher. But like, nobody was like, be excited. This is a really exciting workspace for the work that you're going to do. I just now connected those dots. I've never seen somebody says, like, the instructional design industry is a great one to work in because it's the fun and the thrilling and the enlightening feeling of educating people and being a part of that atmosphere and growing companies. And that never came up. I can't think of anything where that came up.
Yeah, and
we're marketing the position wrong.
Yeah,
on top of finding it wrong.
This is it. I feel like that's quite telling. And when we look at, I think again we're probably a microcosm within the space, not just us, but like the sort of people who are spending their time on a Friday evening listening to us as well. We probably belong to that group of people who found something in what we do that we love.
Yeah.
At least to a certain extent. You know, like I'm not a great believer in you're going to love your job all the time. And I don't, for instance, believe that whole, if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. Sorry,
Oh
that's
yeah, that's
bollocks.
so dumb.
Because the only way that would be true is if you never have to deal with another human being, in which case you're going to struggle to make money.
Is that book
Unfortunately,
within? I don't think I have that book within reach.
that's not.
Life would be better if it weren't for other people.
Exactly. This is
I don't have
it.
the book. It's a great book.
You know,
No, yeah,
as Kara knows, when you do the dream of, if you start your own business and you love what you do, it's just you'll love every minute of it. Yeah, that's great until like tax forms arrive, or there's paperwork to do,
yeah,
or you're chasing a client for a payment and it's like months late, or whatever
right.
it might be. You know,
But yeah, no, God, it was
it's
well. The thing that it reminds me of, because I work in the TCG industry, because I work in card games, is the problem that we have where we sell on a card game, but the people who are creating the card games aren't talking about the game, the product, the thing you're actually supposed to enjoy, but they're simply talking about like the collectability and then this is 101 and like the value of it afterwards. And it feels the same to me it's essentially a bait and switch is how it works. Is I'm going to sell you on something that has nothing to do with what you're actually doing. And I'm going to twist the passion into something that's shinier, which nowadays is that it exists and pays decent sometimes. Better. It's paying better. Like I think the bar is moving up, thankfully.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Like it's like it again, I feel like it's also that particular argument is very a localized argument. Like you've seen, working with me on stuff, kind of the maybe the difference in what you make in the UK versus what's available in US. And I feel like part of that is what this study suggests, because so much of the audience for this is UK based, because the Learning Network is heavily oriented to kind of the UK, some Western European countries, very, very little kind of input from the US, very few members from the US, for instance, in the network.
Wait, what do y'all learn about quiet quitting? That's going to be a fun one. That just came up.
Do you know what? Let's discuss that afterwards, because I think that's real interesting. I think that's going to be, because I got my first request for creating a course on it today. So yeah, we'll discuss this. I can't wait.
That one's wild. I'm in such a weird spot with that.
Yeah, but what I was saying is, I feel like what the other thing that shows in the UK is that professionalization element is very missing here in the UK. So in the States, for instance, it doesn't seem that unusual to come across someone working in instructional design who has a doctorate, or at least a degree, or perhaps a master's degree in some kind of digital education. That is extraordinarily rare in the UK.
Yeah.
Like even just finding a course in the UK, good luck. I had a look, I could find one.
Jeez.
One master's degree at aiming at digital education. It was in Glasgow, Scotland, and it was very much aimed at child educators. It was not aimed at workplace learning. That is not an area. Instructional design degrees are not a thing here. It's just not, and I feel like that has an impact in terms of salary demand ultimately. It means that everyone or I should say everyone, the vast majority of UK-based L&D professionals are genuine, fell into it, no formalized education. So you do your CIPD, or the LPI has now come along to mop up some of that money, kind of offering the same thing, really.
So as a market, you haven't really appreciated the distinction between the two. So I assume you pay. I don't know how well y'all pay teachers out there, but we don't do crap for them. So
it's tricky. At entry level, teachers will get more than IDs. But then once there is a lot more growth in the corporate workplace than there is in teaching. It's and the world is a little bit different, obviously, US to UK in terms of like career and what's included and what isn't, I guess. But but yeah, we kind of have the inverse, where at the start you're better off, but then you've also spent God knows how long at school becoming a teacher. So it's comparatively speaking, yes, they are massively underpaid. But it kind of reverses over time. But always underpaid ultimately when you think about the importance of the job.
School for graphic design, I'm still paying for it forever and ever and ever.
That's the
That'd mean
way,
crap
right?
to me.
So we've got loads of comments coming in. Let's look and see if we've got any questions.
I don't even know how you'd create a course on quiet quitting, because really what you're doing is it's just called motivation in the workplace and not treating people like garbage, or at least acknowledging when they're treating themselves like garbage and treating you like garbage. There's so many angles.
Yeah, this is it. I mean, I kind of just want to create it and just have a single screen saying "just do it." That's the same with them as current. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Kara, don't get me started on academies. Yeah, I agree with you, Luke, that I think they are responsible for the over glamorization and the excessive expectations of what an entry level L&D or ID role is going to look like.
Okay,
go for it.
I gotta pull this up. This happened of the week, and as far as like what academies have done, what academies have freaking done, where is it? I sent screenshots to myself to make sure this thing didn't get lost. Somebody in the instructional design Facebook group posted a series of questions.
This will be good.
Huh? Yeah, you're not wrong. They posted a series of questions, that's in my gallery, that were just general process questions. Okay. They posted a lot of them, mind you. Like there were 6 questions. The first, I'll quickly through them. Super quick version. All right. So what sector do you work in? Education or corporate? I think that's a good question out of the gate. So how do you successfully execute your implementation plans? Okay. How do you implement? There's 6 of them. Come on, lighting. There we go. Boom. 6 of them. And they're fairly new to the industry. Like this person's fairly new. So how do you successfully execute implementation? What's your process for successfully communicating implementation experience and demonstrating your existing capabilities? How do you plan for what might go awry? What considerations do you make for various mediums, ILT, VILT, e-learning, blended, all that? And then what are the steps in your implementation process? Like, holy crap. Like that's a good list of questions.
It is, but it could have been a single question. How do I be an instructional designer? that is I don't want to go through that.
At least there was a target, right? Yes. At least there was a target of, it wasn't how do I teach somebody?
No.
Like that's the difference. None of these were how do I teach somebody? It is how do I implement a plan? How do I execute? How do I communicate? It was essentially how do I project manage ID? That's what the one question is. Great questions, especially from somebody new. And I think that's a basic knowledge. First comment, this is a 2-day course. I'll DM you. Like, oh, I hate you. Jeez. Like, shut up. Don't even.
Yeah.
There's a comment down that ticked me off even more, which is like, to answer these, like, you're going to have to pay for that kind of time. I was like, well, one, now I have to answer it. Because no.
Love it.
Like I am on a mission to get banned from that group for educating people. I want to do that. I want to be like, I'm going to answer anytime an academy comes in. It's like, oh, I have a whole academy course on this. I want to just like, I'm going to answer these questions. And I want you to yell at me for answering them. Like, why are you saying this? Is because your business sucks. One, nobody has a 2-day course in implementing ID. That's not a thing. It took me a half hour and I came up with something that took 4 screenshots to get all of. Well, like, here you go.
And then actually doing it takes, years of practice.
Yeah. Yeah, like and it was, for me, it was fun. Like I like answering. So anybody who's watching, like go and answer those because you get to get some fun jabs at the reality of the industry and there's no expense to it. Like I was like, one of the things I was like, don't marry yourself to like a project management style, like Addy or Sam or whatnot. Like that's not going to work. You're going to have to adapt and chances are you're doing it wrong anyway, like me. Don't ask stupid questions in your feedback model. Like, would you recommend this course to somebody else? They're going to answer yes, but the answer is no.
Because
Like,
when
I
did
get to
you
I get
last
I get to be like,
recommend a workplace learning course to a friend
yeah,
or colleague?
yeah, like, it feels great to answer those because I get to be a little jerk. But that's what that was the whole reason I brought that up is because it's you at the very beginning you were talking about how like it's like about debates and like basic questions become debates and big conversations. And I'm like, no, they become breeding grounds for crappy sales techniques from people who think that the depth of their question is something that can only be answered if you pay for it. No, have a conversation. Watch the ID update. Go to all the free things that are out there. I hate it.
Yeah,
And
I think this
that's
is
the
my big
standard.
push now. Yeah, I agree. I think this is my big push now is that there is so much free resource out there, and I wouldn't, if I'm honest, recommend like IDT to someone who's new to the industry. It's kind of not where the channel. The channel is more my ramblings. Than it is a guided tour of how to become an ID. But there are like whether it's YouTube channels or blogs or just stuff that is free, or or you can buy a book because that does still work.
Yeah.
Books still. Last time I checked, you can open them, you can turn the pages. As long as you can read, you're all good. If you can't, there's Audible. Um, but I would argue you get far more out of those free resources or books and low cost resources than you ever will out of these blood sucking boot camps and academies.
Right.
Like to the point where, yeah, you kind of as a hiring manager, I see this stuff and I'm like, oh no, like because I don't want that. I don't want that boxed in. I use this model and that, and then I add the solution, and then I blah 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 blah. It's like, oh, would you
Mhm.
just stop with the
It reminds me of my
templated cover letter, CV, and portfolio. And my capstone project is nowhere in the corporate world would we ever use the term capstone project. Like that
right.
is one of those moments where you're just like, okay, you're done.
It reminds me of my interview at CenturyLink where they asked me, "Is like, tell me a time where you used Addy to create a course." I'm like, "No, I didn't." There you go. I created the course and then I looked at it afterwards and said, "Here's where I did all those things." I
So you
guess.
go, that's a trick question. No one has ever done this because that's not what Addy does.
Yeah, no.
Addy exists to cause argument and bad blood between departments trying to create a course.
Stupid.
The
It's to
comments are
educate.
far too
It's
far
to
away
try to
from me.
create
Let me get
educate.
closer.
It's to educate big executives who don't know what your job is to make it sound like it's more sophisticated, and they're just going to turn around and be like, "Well, did people complete the course?" And you're like, "Yes, they did." Cool. Then you've done a good job. I'm like, "No, doesn't mean anybody learned anything. Never mind. You know what? I'm going to go and do the next thing."
Absolutely. And I'm just going to take a moment because Phil's just commented, big up the books. Never would have said it years ago, but I learned more in books recently than in webinars, podcasts, or paid courses, topic detail depending.
There's some great ones out there.
Having known Phil for years, this is a big win. This is a big win for the literary world. This makes me very happy. And I couldn't agree more. I feel like it's I don't know, it's the most ridiculously unsung thing. Because I was chatting with someone yesterday. They were posting. I want to say I got copied into the conversation by like maybe Heidi Kirby. I think if I remember rightly. I'm sure I'll be corrected if I'm wrong.
I mean, if you're going to get caught up in a conversation, Heidi's kind of a good.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a
It
good
was a great
starting point.
conversation. Because someone was asking how do they find a mentor.
Ooh.
And there was a lot of I don't know. I think quite questionable stuff being thrown around, and my response of well, just find someone that you think does cool stuff, and then talk to them, and if it
Yeah.
seems like a good fit, ask, and if they say, "Hey, look, I'm sorry," blah blah blah, blah then don't take it personally and ask someone else.
Yeah.
Like, is there a system I can go to or somewhere I could just like? Well, there is, but really, have we got to the point where we can't go learn something and go and ask someone? And certainly when I got in, that's what I read books and I asked people. And as I said, when I paid to go on courses, I got disappointed and ripped off. That's the one thing that hasn't changed with academies, whether it's a professional organization or some person online who's never actually been an ID.
Like that's the flag for me. I was thinking about it of like, because I thought about it with even with that series of questions. Was that worth paying for? Was that information worth paying for? Because I thought of like, man, did I really go too far as like maybe if I did want to do a pay model? At the end of the day, I landed on no. But you bet your butt if I were to follow up and be like, I'd love to talk to you more in like a paid consulting hour or something, I'm going to win because of I established credibility and spent the time to do that versus anybody who says, I had a course on this. Yeah. Like that's why I like your answer of go find somebody who did something cool because you're seeing their credibility in the moment and then go ask them.
This is it. It kind of just felt like I get that people's time is valuable and everyone's got to make money, right? We're all ultimately, no matter whether we love what we do or we hate it, blah, 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 we do it to make money. That's why we work. I think even the people who most love the L&D industry, if they were in the financial position to never have to work another day in their life, would they still do it?
Yeah, the thing about making money is that you still got to put an investment into advertising yourself, especially if you're trying to do a course and trying, if knowledge is what you're selling, you got to advertise some of it.
Well, this is it. But even then, if not, I don't think it's certainly when someone's getting into the industry, I don't think it's a healthy place to start. I think I would never have got into the industry now. I couldn't. Everything's too expensive. No one or not enough people who are readily there on all these places that you might go to if you Google it or go to Reddit or whatever it might be. You would believe you have to pay. There is so little space for, hey, yeah, I'll answer your question. Not a problem. Here's the information. Here's my experience. Here's a great thing to go and take a look at.
All right, I want to look through comments.
More of that.
Yeah,
go for it.
I want to look through comments, and then I want to spin that into kind of what the topic of the day was as well, as opposed to yet another we hate academies. First off, Cars Books LXD Essentials. LXD Essentials. I can only imagine what that's going to be. Spring 2023. Here's what about paying time. You have a relationship always in the house. You some random one time. Open your wallet. Mixed. I guess it depends on how they get to you. There's more conversations with that. I come from a graphic design back standpoint where if you had a relationship with me and asked for graphic design work, I got to charge your ass. I have to charge you. But ID, I don't mind just jabbing. Don't want to learn from somebody who's only in it for the money. Direct contrast to my own philosophy. I was watching The Simpsons last night, and there's an episode where they all go to a field, like they go take a field trip, and the place is suddenly like charging, where they weren't ready for that. So it's like, I don't have money for this. So like all the kids are like leaning over the fence trying to watch what's going on beyond. And then one of the people who's a part of it was like a Civil War recreation. One of them like drops their gun and is like, "Hey, they're trying to learn for free," and it's a big chase. So like that's very direct.
Yeah, no, it is tricky because I do get what Perry said there in terms of demand for time. It is tricky. I think. I guess it depends on what that is. If someone's looking for, some kind of mentoring, I do believe that should. Yeah. I'd say it should always be free. It should be done without personal profit. So, prime example is there are mentoring platforms out there that you pay to get access to the platform or a general membership, but that money goes to the overall service provision, not the individuals being mentors. The mentors mentor for free, and they pay to be on the platform as well. It's all about
okay, I understand.
I don't mind that. What I do agree there is that the idea that if someone wants coaching is a paid relationship. It's completely different to mentoring. Consulting is a different relationship. That's a paid relationship. You bet your ass it is. And if someone wants you to create something, well, then they're just hiring someone to create something, and you should absolutely pill them. Yeah, my general thing is, if they're going to make a profit off what you're doing directly, not in terms of, oh, they're going to be better at their career, like in a mentoring thing, they're going to directly make money off the stuff you do, you damn well charge them. It's, you know, I feel like otherwise you end up giving your time away a lot, and people do expect a lot. I think that's fair.
You are fuzzing out a little bit, just as a warning.
Oh dear.
Bit. So anyway, I wanted to bring all that. Actually, we'll wrap up the rest of these. So sick using money as a screening tool. Okay, I see the difference between what you're doing and what I'm doing, and how I'm seeing it. Because I'm like a question here and there, but they're like, I want a half hour of time. I'm like, yeah, about that.
Yeah, I think that there is a big line there, isn't there? I think it's, especially given, like, if you've got the time free and you want to do it, I guess go for it. But equally, I do feel like sometimes well-meaning people can overwhelm themselves and then let people down by taking on so much and then not being able to deliver on it, right? Whereas if you're billing for it, it's not, you know, it's not then free time being used up, it's work time being used up. So,
yeah, like I had somebody who reached out to me for some storyline stuff, and I've been helping them troubleshoot something miserable. Just, it was somebody else did it and then they passed it off, and I was like, oh crap. But like they've been paying, like we never came up with a system. She's just been paying me randomly. I'm like, awesome, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Because I would have hated it. It was like 5-6 hours. I would have hated doing that for free.
Yeah.
So yeah, drain the cup a little bit. So I want to spin this around into the professionalism, or what the heck is it? Oops, professionalizing. How do you do it? Like if I want to professionalize the industry, what are the avenues that I go through? What are the avenues, you know, can a company go through something? And is this as simple as, hey, we've given you a LinkedIn Learning account, or, you know, or Udemy account? Or how do you professionalize, and where's the line between finding free resources or paying for them? And I guess my follow-up is, why in the world are institutions like ATD not cutting it? How does 91% not see that there's a lot of different conferences and things to be a part of, and say, we're still not growing ourselves?
Yeah. So for me, I mean, just to answer the conferences question, I got to be honest, the number of conferences I attend and I walk away thinking that has made me better at my job, I could maybe count them on one hand in 10 years in the industry. Okay. Like I actually think the standard of conference events varies so wildly. It's unbelievable. And I do actually think that if you held this same survey in the States, I actually think you'd get quite a different result, because I think the L&D industry over there is significantly further along. And I think part of that is money. I think part of it is that actually you've got something as strong and as widespread as ATD. It is it is orders of magnitude further along in what it's doing and what it's offering than anything here in the UK. It's why I don't have a membership to any of the UK stuff, and I do have a membership to an international membership to ATD, because I think it actually just has more value to it. As a learning professional. I do think part of it is that we need to, as an industry, make, someone's evidence-based or evidence-informed. That should just be the norm. That shouldn't be something special. We are an industry that has the opportunity to benefit from vast amounts of research in a whole range of scientific areas, and we just, on the whole, choose not to, because it takes effort. And it's much easier to go, learning styles, forgetting curve, and all this stuff, and just parrot stuff that we've picked up off Facebook.
I mean, going off what we talked about a couple months ago, was part of that just because nobody outside of the learning industry holds us to any standard?
I think so. And I think the day that they do, the industry is going to basically, almost as a whole, get sacked. So,
I don't disagree with that at all. Second somebody comes in and is like, hey, can you actually show me some tangible numbers behind whether or not your learning was effective?
Run away!
Like, bye!
be like a Monty Python scene where they catapult the cow out of the castle at them. They're all going, "Run away!" and off they run downhill.
It lands in the shape of a new Academy logo every time.
This is it. There we go. That's
I've got 10 years of the industry covered for me. Like, did you do anything valuable? I have 10 years of the industry. That says something. No, it doesn't.
I survived 10 years by keeping my head under the radar. Then, when asked for evidence, quit and set up an academy. That's
It's the next domino.
There we go. There's my road plan. I'll see you all later.
Yeah. 91% wants to professionalize, and we need some better resources for that. Now's the time to open an academy.
Oh god, no! I think that is part of the problem. Is that one of there are many things to have gripes about with the academies, but the biggest thing I have is that when someone says, "Oh, I don't know, I'm a qualified learning designer from such and such," I have no idea what that means. I have no, not even a ballpark of what this person may know or have done or have not. And the same is actually even true with people with a lot of the whether it's degrees or higher education stuff, or even things like here in the UK, we've got the Digital Learning Institute, which is pretty good. They have an instructional designer course. It's like 12 weeks. It doesn't claim to be the be all and end all. It's like an introduction to kind of course, gives you some basic skills. But again, I've got a certificate or a diploma in instructional design. What does that mean? I have no way of knowing what knowledge and what skills are actually encapsulated in that. You can dig into it and find out, but it's not like other topics where you kind of go, "Oh, okay, so you will know the following things." You know, so if, for instance, if someone does pretty much any degree, you know, they have some foundational skills there in terms of research and writing and, deciding on whether or not a source is valid, all these kinds of things. It gives you some foundations, effectively foundations of effective learning, or regardless of what degree you do right there. None of that exists in this other space because it's just do what you want and advertise it well. And the same, in my opinion, is true of a lot of actually the awarding bodies as well. There is no alignment between the LPI, the CIPD, QA, or TAP here in the UK. That QA and TAP are the same thing. TAP is the award they give out. And for instance, ATD in the States. So for instance, you could have the, Master Instructional Designer from ATD. I'm pretty sure that's probably a really good course and a really good accreditation. Doesn't map to anything, for instance, from CIPD or the LPI, or there's no, how do I know where that actually puts you? You know, does being a master instructional designer make you a really great instructional designer, or are you just, solidly competent with a range of skills? It's very difficult to know what these things are actually giving people. I don't know. I feel like we almost need a bit like where we have like a national syllabus. I'm sure in the States you must have something similar, where the government says this is what schools teach in maths at this age range. This is what you learn at 7 or whatever.
Whether or not, so yes, but whether or not you want to call that valuable or good, that's up for debate.
But it does mean that, if someone says I have an A level in physics, they know the syllabus for A-level physics. They have passed that. They have been tested on it. I get that there are all kinds of problems in that sense, but you know what it means.
They're tested on things that have answers that can be applied to things, and you don't have that in L&D. I can't test you on right answers, and even if you get answers right, doesn't mean you know how to apply it to something.
No, of course. You would need to do something different.
Evaluation. Okay, I know what they are. It doesn't mean I know how to apply them, or it doesn't mean that it mattered.
Absolutely, you would need to do something different. But okay, a bit like there are certifications here for electricians where they have to prove they are safe. And if someone, I can't remember the name, it is my brother's doing it at the minute. But if someone has got it, you can look them up and you can then say, oh, so they are safe to install fuse boxes and rewire houses. Oh, but this, they're not gas safe. So they can't do anything that attaches to a gas appliance.
Yeah, we have that with like HVAC.
Yeah, perfect. So do we need something like that a clear accreditation that says this means this individual has a proven ability to do X, Y, and Z, and then we need it to universally map, not just be, hidden away somewhere.
I'd take yes in a heartbeat. I'd say yes in a heartbeat, because that's branching. That leads to branching. You're not just an instructional designer. You've done application development. You've done You've done manufacturing. You've done soft skills, HR. Like, I can say that I'm an instructional designer, and I can probably get myself hired for an HR company despite not having ever done any HR actual training.
This is it.
Branch. I like that. I would do it. I'd go for that.
I feel like it's the only reasonable way, because I agree that we couldn't go down a purely academic education approach. I feel like that would lead to a lot of people who can reference a lot of books but could do fuck all. I always say that I've seen both extremes. I've seen people who are incredibly learned, maybe is the term, in instructional design, who are fantastic and who are terrible. And I've seen the exact same on the side that have never picked up an ID book. They're fantastic because they've just picked things up, or they're terrible because they've not picked things up.
Yeah. I mean, all right. So the best translation to this is medical. That's what it is. It's with doctors, of a baseline of boring that doesn't get you too far. And hilariously, even in that, it's like I can go be like an RN, which gives me baseline until somebody who's specialized in something shows up. That's kind of how I'm thinking about it. If you're going to create a baseline where every circumstance that shows up is going to be so wildly different that universal baseline knowledge really means nothing, other than maybe you understand how it translates into some other branch, which is kind of how it works in medical, right? I kind of know, I get an understanding of kind of who I need to go get for XYZ thing. Maybe that's the way to think about it.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing it out there. It's just the first thing I thought up. It was like, that's the only other industry where there is no general baseline of knowledge that lets you do anything. If anything, it at least gets you enough to get into the industry and then know how to find the specialist.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Just imagine if we decided to do no harm training. Well, then we wouldn't have Facebook groups.
It's funny if we discussed this point, okay, but I genuinely think actually if there was a Hippocratic oath for L&D, there would just be so little training created. It's ridiculous,
Sounds like the best certifications are connected to liability issues.
Yeah,
I'd love more info on what you mean by that. Unless I'm not entirely sure what that comment means.
So if you certainly you think about the examples of doctors, electricians, these are jobs where if you balls them up, you could kill someone and get sued. Or go to prison.
Okay.
Yeah. And therefore the accreditations are really quite specific. Yeah, I feel like
I think we're getting there. I like that. I mean, not that you'll get sued if you do crappy training, but it's one of those, I can be general electrician, but once I get into certain stuff, if I don't know what I'm doing, it can go down such a crappy path that in their case, you get sued because it does damage.
Yes. Yeah. Hey, great example from Luke there, actually. Nutrition. Really interesting. I knew someone who's becoming a personal trainer, and they were just like, we cannot talk about nutrition. It's like, we can't touch it.
Wow. I mean, I understand, but
it's because it's real. You used to have all kinds of nutters going around going, oh well, just have an all, I don't know, no carb diet or an all this diet or whatever, and people die or end up with long-term health
the 90s
things.
For us.
Exactly. Or what was the recent one that I found? Apparently, people are eating essential oils now because they're complete morons.
They're essential and oils are good for you.
Yeah,
this is my diet right now.
They're just.
That's a good diet.
Nice, like it.
And when I want protein with just a little, there's not a lot of protein. So when I want protein with a little less, like my wife just put these on my computer, but there we go. There's my nutrition. What
more could you need? Please note, this is not nutritional advice from the early update.
I'm just going to argue that mince is fruits and veggies. I've got breads and the pretzels. All right, I don't have meat. I got protein. Proteins in the proteins in the peanuts, and sugar is literally everywhere. There we go.
This is it. Just
Covered it.
breathe deeply, and
Thanks,
that's
Ben.
it. Your sugar's done for the day.
Yeah. Perfect.
No, this is it. And yeah, Luke says you can only signpost to the government advice around nutrition. Yeah, this is it. I think
Yeah.
it's and it's easy to go, oh, that's an overreaction, blah blah blah. So, but it's not. If you're paying someone, there is that intuitive thing of they're only going to tell me something they know about. Like I don't want to go to a doctor and have them take a best guess. You know,
I was inspired.
and equally, that is not what I want from our industry. We shouldn't be winging it and seeing what happens. If we don't know what to do, we should be, conducting research and figuring out what to do.
Yeah. No, I like it.
I like it. Was CIPD and not too many, not considered baseline though, not backing it, but the closest to the consistent. Yeah. So the CIPD stuff is kind of the closest we have to a consistent standard in the UK. So my issue with CIPD really is the fact that it's all from a very HR organizational perspective. We've kind of moved beyond that. It's kind of where L&D was, 15 years ago. Would be how I would describe it. And there are some great people at CIPD. I've done some work with them. They're awesome. But I think most of them would agree that their core strength is HR. That's why most of their stuff is HR, aimed at HR people, not L&D. You go to their conferences, it's all HR all the time. L&D has a tiny little corner of the event usually. And that's fine because it's not an L&D event. It's not an L&D organization.
Yeah.
I just think we would be better off with something universal as opposed to being very localized. And I think an organization like ATD is in a better position to do that because it has so much clout already in the industry. Yeah.
I love this. I love this question from should IDs be made to have certifications for certain subjects they work on, such as cybersecurity, so we don't only rely on SMAs? I'm going to say yes and no. That's my knee jerk is I would love for the industry standard to be for workers in it to distinguish themselves based on type of subject, like cybersecurity or application training or HR, interpersonal, soft skills, leadership training, stuff like that, which you see in the job descriptions, right? Focus on leadership training. You see some of those depending what the job is, especially with leadership. Like people really want leadership and soft skills, and that's an item. I'd love to see it become industry standard that people who apply for things put those in. On the flip side of that, I don't think they always have to be so mutually exclusive that would require a certification. That, and I don't know if the certification would mean anything half the time. The only certification I have is instructional or in project management for instruction design, which I didn't even like that course. I wasn't even a fan of that. Sorry, ATD, but that one sucks. But that's the one that I have. But I go in and say my specialty is application design. I don't know how we do it. And it's another one of those, how do we educate the industry? And if we can't even educate them on standards, I don't know how far this conversation is going to go. But maybe you teach the IDs to just be able to market themselves better. I specialize in software development training. That's me. That's what I do. I'm going to go after those. I don't know if you can force a cert, but maybe you can have one that looks real good.
Well, I think it's less a case of forcing it.
God.
Oh, there you saw that. Yeah.
that Kara is teaching that one, and it's been revamped.
Sounds like it needed it.
Yeah, I'm not going to go much further, but me and we're not friends.
Yeah.
Thankfully, the company paid for it, not me.
Hey.
And I still get to say I have it, but yeah. Anyway, your go.
So, I think for me, it's real tricky. I disagree actually quite strongly with the idea that we should be specific to topics. This for me, it's the same reason I disagree with niching. Learning is niche enough. There aren't enough good and there are plenty of learning professionals. There aren't enough good learning professionals to do this. There just aren't. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And actually, I think our reliance on SMEs is our biggest strength, as long as we're good at it. I think trying to be an expert in multiple things is impossible. It just is. I would much rather put all my time and all my effort and energy into being the best learning and development professional that I can be, and then be able and part of that is developing really strong skills with working with an SME. And then the SME can focus all their energy, all their efforts on being the best, I don't know, gas line engineer or, water pipe installation person or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And then you've got, my role ultimately is to make sure their knowledge, experience, understanding, blah, 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 is delivered in a timely and effective way to everyone else, et cetera, in a way that improves performance, blah, 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 blah. All that nice stuff. To me, trying to merge those two at any level, whenever I've seen it, it has been disastrous, because you will never be as good as an SME ever if you're also going to try and be an expert in learning and development. So why divert time and energy to it?
It reminds me of those job descriptions that are like, we want you to be an instructional designer for like an engineering team, must have 10 years of engineering experience, pays $60,000.
Yeah, like, madness.
No, if you have 10 years of an engineer, no, you're not doing this for 60 grand.
And even then, I would suggest politely, if you've got 10 years as an engineer and, I don't know, a year as an ID, then you're an engineer. You might be a great engineer, but you're probably a shit ID.
Yeah. No, I'd agree, because I can't. So when I do software stuff and I would have to do like data orchestration training. I can't, if I wanted to go learn how to do that enough where I can train on it, I'd go do that. It pays a lot more. The way that I've adjusted my relationship with SMEs to one of like a producer director half the time. It depends on what since I do software, I get the luxury of screen recordings. And how to use specific applications and whatnot. So I don't want to learn how to use the application as well as they can. I want them to do it. And I literally just direct and produce videos for them. I help them script. We record it in the time. I figure out how to get from point A to point B. I use my ID stuff to ask questions in the moment off camera. So that way I can be like, all right, well, the next section is going to be getting us from here to here. Does that work? Like, there, you gotta, like, for me, I thrive working with SMEs in the moment, as opposed to everything is pre-planned and then they give me everything that I ever need, and then I take that, and that's a skill that I don't think is adopted enough with working with SMEs, is being able to adapt on the fly and kind of knowing how to ask the kind of questions that get you the right information.
Yeah.
Because there's a point, and I think Luke's frustration with how much we rely on SMEs probably comes from the knowledge that they think they need to deliver versus what we need them to deliver. And there's not really a good formula of this is what I actually need. And an SME is going to just that's when they go off on tangents. And that's this is what I think they need to know based on my years of experience. I'm like, I don't need your years of experience. I need your day one.
Yeah. And I feel like that's certain. And again, I think, Joe, this is a really interesting chat because it kind of shows the effect of a lack of standardization. Because you can clearly see how and it's not that everyone should work in exactly the same way. That's not at all what I mean. More just that we have, all of us have been in the industry a while. We all have very, very different views on this, and that's fine. But we also, none of us quite know where each other are. None of us could go, I'm using this approach, or I'm using that approach, or this is where I am. I think the SMEs are, I think for me personally, they're the most challenging part of working in the industry, but equally the most rewarding, because when you get the relationship right, you create incredible products, and actually it comes together really easily. But part of that is the fact that you're right, an SME is not a learning professional, so they will give you random bollocks that no one needs to know. That's fine. Doesn't mean you have to put it in the course.
Yeah.
I feel like if we've done our job right, then we've clearly defined what our roles and relationships here are, and their role is not dictating the content of the course. Their role is providing information as required to deliver the course's goals. And I feel like quite often when the relationship does go down that route of, and this needs to be in there, and kind of the Oprah Winfrey SME, and you get a bit of information and you get a bit of information, that quite often has come from not clearly defining roles and responsibilities from day one. At least in my experience. That's because I used to be really bad at it. I'd always be the kind of, hey, let's be open and let's go backwards and forwards. And if you feel like there's something that needs to be in there, let me know and we'll see what we can blah, 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 blah. No. This is what you're here for, and this is what I'm here to do. And I have sign off on this, and you have sign off on this, but you are not involved in choosing which color blue I use to shade the side of the screen. And you are not involved in deciding what the objectives of this course are. And that's really important. And I find if you do that, not only do you narrow the scope for having to add crap in that shouldn't be there, but also the relationship, you start off understanding what one another are there to do a lot more. It makes it very easy to say, whoa, hold on. That's not your job. Yeah. Because that was established and agreed to at the start. If you don't do that, it's very difficult to tell someone, butt out, I don't want you in this part of the job.
Pretty much. I've got two tricks that I use when I work with SMEs. One is at the very beginning and one is at the very end. The very beginning, when I scope, is I ask, what is the implication of a job done wrong? Like if we do our training like crap, what happens to you? Which is usually a similar way of asking, like, why is this training? Why do you need this training in the first place? But you get a lot of truths in what the real issues are, which tend to be like basics. I keep having to join meetings answering basics. I keep getting emails on the support ticket lines go up, and I keep having to answer questions and jump in. And I'm part of an escalation path. That one's a fun one because you learn what you actually need to solve. And then the second one on the flip side of the end, the second thing I do is I split QA into two roads. The first one is the accuracy QA, which is all I use the SME for. Is the content right? And then the rest is the actual training flow. You don't know anything about this. I'm going to teach this to you through this training. Did it make sense? The end. I leave it there. The SME is not a part of the second part of that. Because that's going to be the thing that tells me is like, did I give you a good enough conversation that somebody who had no clue what they were talking about, didn't feel we got off topic, was able to comprehend the full conversation at the end of it? Because that's what tangents do, is they skew the conversation. I know this for being on this podcast for a year and a half.
I don't know what you mean.
But like, those are the two things that I really use that find the line between what SMEs want to share versus what people actually need to know. Is what are SMEs pissed off about the most? The fact that training doesn't exist for, which throws their tangents way the heck out of the way and gets back to basics. And then does somebody who has no clue what they're doing understand what I just did? And I keep the SMEs out. You are not a part of that QA string. It's worked really well for me. But again, I've only done software application training. Lord only knows how that translates to other things.
Yeah,
like harder skills. Maybe that's a hard skills training. Maybe that probably don't work for soft skills.
Possibly.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm throwing it out there.
Yeah, no, I think it's really interesting. I think the SME space is kind of simultaneously, I think, not necessarily undertrained. Lord knows there's a lot of nonsense out there about it. It's not focused on enough in the right way, I don't think. Too often it is framed as you're going up against SMEs. I think as an industry, we're very quick to say that the SME is the problem, when in actual fact,
we always talk about how little they respond to things. That's like the second sentence.
Well, yes, but we also have some pretty awful ways of working.
You're not wrong at all.
You only have to look at the average CV and see how many times Addy is mentioned to see why an SME might go, oh, fuck off. The moment as someone from the L&D team goes, hi, I'd like you on this project, and they run for the hills.
Shoot me an email. Send me a meeting invite. Maybe I'll show up.
Exactly. This is it. You've got. It's a bit like when everyone was saying, "Oh, the reason people don't like e-learning is because they, they need to adjust to it or they don't understand." No, the reason people don't like your e-learning is because it's crap. It's the same reason. Like, when people say, "Oh, why are kale sales down?" It's because no one likes kale.
Yeah, it sucks.
In January, everyone goes,
Cale Makar,
"Oh,
Colorado Avalanche, number 8 defenseman. Heck yeah.
This is it. In January every year, everyone buys some kind of new freaking blender from the TV shopping channel and they're told to go and make a kale smoothie. They buy one bunch of kale and everyone goes, "Oh, kale's going to be the food of the..." Gone. That's it. They do it the once because it tastes like ass. No one likes it. And that's the same for e-learning. And it's the same way SMEs look at the L&D department when we ask them for their help. They do it once, it leaves a terrible taste in their mouth, and they never come back.
All right, Kara, this is on you. Next book. Your e-learning tastes like ass.
Hey, that's my book. Why your e-learning is like a kale smoothie.
Oh man.
But no, this is, I feel like that is part of what, full circle. There we go. We'll finish this topic off now. The professionalization argument. One thing true professionalization brings is introspection. It forces you to hold yourself to a standard and regularly look in the mirror. And I feel like right now, if L&D did that, it would be a bit of a Dorian Gray incident going on. We'd look in the mirror and we'd be like, "Oh, God, what is that?" And then we'd realize it was us.
I like that.
And yes, I know his was a painting. I started with a mirror and I wasn't going to backtrack and change it. So, yeah. But yes,
I know you're wrong. I liked it.
I feel like we would be quite shocked if we could see our industry through the eyes of literally anyone else.
I love that. I think it'd be cool. Scary, but needed, necessary.
Yeah. Hey, Joe Suarez is here. Didn't realize you were here. Nice to have you. And he's starting with the man in the mirror. Excellent.
Yeah. You got the best part.
Nice.
You missed a lot. Just saying, you missed a lot. That's fine. It was fun. That was good stuff.
You mostly missed tortured metaphor and why your e-learning is like a kale smoothie. So yeah, important stuff.
I still like taste like ass, but that might not be able to be on the ATD bookshelves. So kale smoothie. That's a clickbait headline as a title.
This is it. You can see. You look out for the video next week.
I did that. Awesome. Again, more back to Decks and Draft stuff. I did 2 reasons why your card game can't just suck. That was the title of the video. Which hilariously was another issue of branching. The similarities between the problem that ID has and the problem that card games have right now are is uncanny. Because everything is lumped into one. We only lump them into one term. And it's like, but that term needs it has a lot of different audiences the second you get past it. There's no universal standard, because once you get to the universal standards of X industry, the quality of those standards becomes subjective based on the branches. I like this game. This game is a trading card game. This game is a trading card game that sucks for me because I like the competitive side, even though this game was more of a casual fun thing. Well, I can't say that in the term trading card game. I didn't give you that distinction. I just hit a baseline, and we still judge on the baseline if your trading, your card game sucks based off of stuff that term never really got a chance to acknowledge. Same with instructional design. Your baseline definitions and standards of instructional design suck because everybody else is grading you on standards that are adjectives. Are things next? Your training sucks. Well, my training was HR. It's like, well, I was looking at it from an application standpoint. Like, well, we didn't say that in instructional design, did we? Like, branching. That's we set bad expectations. Our job title sucks.
So here's well, I said we were going to close this topic off, but I just found that really interesting. 2 very different industries there, kind of afflicted by the same thing, and it kind of made me think about: is this an industry or industries problem, or is this more of a societal problem? Like we are kind of undeniably more of a oppositional society now. Everyone knows what they aren't, but very few people can clearly define what they are.
I'm going to go oversimplified.
Hmm?
I'm going to go with oversimplified.
Hmm.
Because on the flip side of it, because we're all terrible, when you oversimplify, you don't have to take as much accountability. I'm a great instructional designer. You were terrible. You didn't ask the right questions. I'm fine. I'm going to go walk off in the distance and feel good about myself now. I'm a great card game. You're a crappy card game. No, I'm a great card game for different people. I'm going to go walk into my Discord. It's oversimplified is the issue. We've oversimplified.
Yeah,
and now we're holding ourselves to standards that oversimplification has created a problem for.
Yeah, I think I found the question because it got. I was thinking about it earlier in the week actually because there was quite a good kind of LinkedIn backwards and forth about unlearning. I'm really pleased that other people talk about unlearning. I was really excited when I saw this. I've been following
the thread. Is that the one you went to town on? You went to town on one of them.
No. So this was actually a much more that other one. My issue was with people just being unnecessarily combative when you're discussing in L&D. It's not a personal topic. No one is being accused. No one is being oppressed. No one is rubbish. Anyway, I believe it was. Second mention. It may have been Heidi Kirby's original post. Miriam Nealon, co-author of Evidence Informed Learning Design. If you haven't read it, it's a must read. She responded as well, and I put my usual sarcastic response in there to unlearning. All this sort of thing. And someone else came in with a very much a kind of, okay, well, the science may be on your side, but. So it's like, no, that's it. Like, we now weirdly live in the fact of, yes, well, you may have the facts, but. And that's kind of how I see L&D now. Is, there's a weird space where, yes, I know that all the science says this is how it works. But and there's a kind of a failure on all sides, I think, to see nuance, which is actually why I actually really like what Miriam Nealon was put in that book around, the three corners being research and science, personal experience or professional experience, more specifically, and kind of audience specific considerations, and that no one totally trumps the others. All three need to be considered, etc., etc. It's really interesting stuff about the application of science in our field. And it just struck me that this kind of debate was very ignore one of the three, because in my personal experience, X, Y, and Z is true. It's like you can't do that. And I feel like until we're in a space where nuance is the default position on every single topic, we're not gonna kind of move forwards. We're not going to improve. We're not gonna, as you said, deal with the issues in the trading card industry or the L&D space.
I'm disagreeing.
It's got to be that nuance piece.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all.
Well, that's depressing on the state of humanity. Let's move on. Storyline made updates that aren't fucking useless.
Hey, what's even more disturbing? So did Camtasia.
No.
You first, though.
I haven't actually got the storyline ones up. I can get them up. Do you want to do the Camtasia ones first? Because I've tried to use Camtasia 3 times this week. Every single time, it has been garbage.
I don't know what your issues are. I'm having no problem. I know what you're trying to do. I can only
put together episodes of my podcast that are recorded in H.264, just standard H.264 MP4, and they invert the colors and they go bibbledy bobbedy bibbledy. And then they
don't have those issues, but I'm curious. I'm morbidly curious, but that'll be for another time.
Yeah. Exactly.
They added things that I like. How about that? There are feature updates.
Go for it.
Bug fixes and whatever the heck you're doing. I don't know. One, after ages, you can finally reverse a video in Camtasia.
What, as in play it backwards?
I can play it backwards. I know.
Good. I like it.
I like doing it for transitions. Because I can make I can spend a lot of time building a transition, and then I don't have to go to After Effects to reverse the thing, so I can have it transition out.
Yeah.
So I actually really like that kind of stuff. That's useful. Additionally, you can freeze regions now, which I love doing when I do screen captures. So the way that it works is I can, let's say I have something like I'm recording a screen and like my arrows like moved in, or I hover over something that has like a pop-up show up randomly. I'm like, oh crap, I didn't want that on the screen. I can freeze the screen in that point. So that way it just kind of ignores what happens under. So it's like it's literally like creating a screenshot and just placing it over top so it hides whatever's there. But I can do that kind of at will on a whim.
Like it.
Which I really dig. And I can do the same kind of with I can do the same with like blurring a region, which originally the only way you had it was the reverse where you create a spotlight. It was a little rough, but now I can actually kind of blur just a specific part if I want to. So it's, for whatever blocking out you want to do, again, as opposed to taking that same thing, cutting it, putting it over, putting a blur effect on it, like that stuff. That kind of stuff I don't have to deal with anymore. I like that. And if I can blur a region, I can usually use it as a shape, and I can move that region around and whatnot. So yay, huzzah! I like this because I've actually needed all three fairly recently. Specifically the freeze and the reverse.
I can see them being used. I like it.
They still have not changed the one stupid thing of give me a viewfinder that isn't this big. But fine.
Don't think that's ever going to change. I really don't.
No, and it's dumb. It's dumb.
Given the priority that is given in that tool to screen recordings, and it's great at screen recordings, it's a weird thing to have not sorted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Indeed.
They've you can customize they've added more customizations for some of their transitions now as well, which I actually really like, because normally it's kind of like one size fits all and see if they're just slower or faster. But now I can increase intensity on certain ones, like the glares, the flares, things like that. So
nice.
It's a lot more. I have more toys. Everything is just I've got more toys to play with.
Yeah,
that's all it is. I still don't know what the heck you're doing, but I have more toys to play with.
Yeah, I kind of not gonna lie, because it plays fine. It's only when I export it, it's then like, and this looks like shit. So I raised a ticket and they went, oh, and at which point I was just like, I'm just going to do this in Premiere Pro. The time I would have saved doing this in Camtasia is gone after several exports and reformattings. So yeah, that's disappointing. Still a great tool
YouTube, so like I probably don't deal with nearly the level of what is it, quality you look for. I don't know.
Well, it's I just don't want it to invert the colors like it's a freaking X-ray. I don't think that's. I don't feel that that's like a complicated request like that.
Yeah, that one's weird. That one I don't understand at all.
I've never known a video editor to do it before, ever. But again, it's fine. It's not a problem. I'll just go back to the other one. So Storyline did some cool stuff, or articulated some cool stuff in Storyline. I'm not sure if we touched last month on the July fix, where courses wouldn't load on Firefox browsers.
We didn't touch on that.
Like that's hilarious. Like I get that Firefox is not like a lot of use, but like your courses just stopped loading on courses with media on the first slide just stopped loading in a browser. Like if you need a warning that your code base might be a bit shit, this is it. This is the moment where you start going, we might need to start again.
I mean, I think another sign is that your code base might be crap, is that it's called Firefox 103.
Well, that's just the Firefox number, isn't it? That's
like that, because they don't do like version. They don't understand that decimals are a thing, or at least they don't communicate them. They just make other versions.
Possibly. I mean, Firefox, in their defense, is it's a community supported thing, isn't it? It's not making anyone money. So
Yeah.
I have time for Firefox being old and rubbish. I don't have time for Articulate, a ridiculous sum of money international company that leads the industry going, whoops, we stopped working on a major browser.
Fair.
But
Anyway, that
anyway,
was that.
this month we've done much better stuff. So we have a new Go Big or Maximize, as every other platform ever has called it, button that now allows full screen mode to be used from the player. That's cool. I like it. I hate that it's called Go Big, but hey, what can we do? New learners can print stuff. They always could, but there's now a single trigger to do it with. This sounds stupid and small, but the number of times people ask for this is insane. And currently, the best way to do it is with JavaScript, which is fine so long as it never breaks, which it always does.
Hey,
pardon me.
That's not going to sound nearly as stupid as the next one.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, so like the next one's phenomenal, but the fact that it was a thing is stupid.
Yeah, so easily renumber scenes in story view so they appear in the order you want. I cannot tell you how unbelievably difficult this has been to get Storyline to do. Like, it is insane that something so simple. Like, how long has this platform been out now? And only now have they gone, do you know what might be handy? Oh, yes. So they've called it indexing. It's just a button on the main ribbon. It's really easy. It works really well. The one thing that I did try out today, I muddled everything up, reordered them, and it does kind of ripple change everything in a logical way, which was my concern. I was like, is it just going to change this number and swap the two that I'm changing? No, it pushes all the numbers accordingly. Quite good on that. Final bit of new: easily combine multiple must-pass quizzes into a final result slide. Yes, fine. Now, they have done this before. This is not new to my mind. They did it, then they took it away because they launched it and found it didn't work. Good job with the testing there. I'm really hoping this does work, because this is something that has been, like, you've been able to do it for a long time, but it develops a lot of bugs when you do. So I'm really hoping this does work. If it does, great. It's good functionality. Enhanced, you can assign unique names to the quiz results slide. That's a big help. You've always been able to rename them, but it's never shown up for reporting purposes. This is good. Create slides faster. Yeah, variable references on the thingy. Yeah, whatever. Kind of. Yeah, it's maybe useful in one of 100 cases. Fixes: learners couldn't use keyboard navigation to access the previous and next buttons after interacting with a lightbox. Jesus. This is the kind of thing that worries me when I think, for how long has that been the case? Because lightboxes came out 2 years ago in Storyline, 3 years ago, maybe?
Something like that.
Has that always been the case? In which case,
I never really tried, so
we've got a hell of a lot of inaccessible e-learning out there that probably didn't claim to be inaccessible when it was launched.
Oops.
Yep. So that's good that they fixed it, but problematic that they kind of haven't said, so by the way, you may need to republish the last however many courses you published.
What's funny is that, like, I'm thinking about whenever I test something that I just expect to work, the things I do that are lazy.
Yep.
If I know they work, which usually using the buttons, I was like, like, it's almost a weird testament to their level of detail.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, could somebody lazy have done this and they would have found that like ages ago?
I think users probably picked it up. I think the vast majority of their fixes are picked up by end users, not by their testing team. Too much crap comes through, I think, for it to realistically have been the testing team. What else have we got? Screen reader users couldn't use arrow keys to navigate through scrolling panels, and screen readers might announce checkboxes twice. So basically, all these claims about how accessible Storyline is have been bollocks for a long time. It's kind of shock to no one, but still, here we are. This is the kind of stuff where, notice earlier how someone tries your e-learning once, gets a bad taste in their mouth, and never comes back. this is the kind of stuff that is the reason why.
Mhm.
Because if you are reliant on a screen reader, this is a deal breaker.
Right.
Fixed. The numbers were missing from sequence and ranking drag and drop questions. I can't say I've really ever used their templates
Yeah,
for
like, so
questions
what?
anyway, so I feel like that's not a grand issue, but hey, they fixed something. Well done them.
Mhm.
I
wonder 'cause
want to
haven't
be
checked.
really positive about some of the new stuff there. Some of it is great from a quality of life perspective. It's real difficult to get excited about them fixing stuff that I feel like, especially the accessibility stuff, the moment they realized there was a problem, they should have spoken up about it.
Mhm.
They should have been there going, hey, there's this problem and you need to be aware of it. And we're working on it. But in the meantime, be aware that your content is largely inaccessible. Or the following interactions are going to cause accessibility issues. And here's how we suggest working around it. That would, to me, demonstrate an actual commitment to accessibility.
Yeah.
Leaving it for August release notes. That yes, okay, nerds like us are going to read the release notes. Is everyone?
Mhm.
Probably not. Which means a lot of these problems have now been fixed with people never knowing there was a problem. So when someone
Right.
says, "Hey, this isn't working with my screen reader," oh well, Storyline is compatible with the screen reader, so there must be something wrong with the screen reader.
Right. Makes sense. And there's nothing on Project Charm. It's still dead as of June.
Well, they're doing an announcement, aren't they, at this Adobe Learning conference in Las Vegas?
Mhm. You would hope so. So yeah.
There's,
But yeah.
big old middle finger to the rest of the world, but that's fine. We'll just wait.
Right.
You wouldn't want to do an online event. That would be crazy. I joined if they're going to have it on stage like exactly like the Cybertruck. If you haven't seen Joe Suarez's video about why Project Charm is like the Cybertruck of the L&D world, go check that out. I think it's great and correct, more importantly. It was all these announcements were made with such fanfare and then nothing, zero. It's kind of like, well, AMD got a lot of heat this week because they officially announced their planned announcement for the announcement of their new CPUs. It's kind of like that desperation to be in the news cycle. I kind of feel like that's what Adobe's done.
It's like a
Except
trailer
they've
announcement.
kind of underestimated how long the gap was going to be between that announcement of their announcement to their actual announcement and then to their actual launch. And obviously a large portion of their team just going, yeah, fuck you, and leaving.
It's just we'll just call it the ACU state, phase 4, the Adobe Cinematic Universe. Here's everything coming out for the next 4 years. We'll see you in 3 years where we do announcement trailers for the trailer, and then we're going to delay the project 4 months.
Like it.
I like it. I'm a fan.
Ah, dear. But yeah. So I feel like that's not the world's worst month for updates. Really, could be worse.
And I'm good to see they've been the past 3 months. Been a lot of cool stuff.
Yes,
I'm a fan.
This is true. This is true. The EdTech space is still weird at the minute, I think.
Not any weird. Normally, they're the weird ones who suck worse than the IT space.
This is true. This is true. I feel like this is a solid improvement. I could at least see the point in everything. None of them were launching 360-degree menu systems.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've seen anything. Oh, we've enhanced the embedded version of Chromium in Storyline 360. That was in June.
That's necessary because it was way behind.
Oh wait, no, that's Storyline 360. That's not actually the 360-degree thing. You haven't seen anything for that in months.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think Articulate is going to be forced to be better because of all the funding they brought in. It's going to be more necessary movement as opposed to boondoggle, and hopefully we get a new version at some point soon. Because this 32-bit nonsense is killing me. I'm regularly just sat there going, why am I sat here waiting for Storyline? Oh, because it's only sipping at 4 gig of RAM or whatever. when
Yeah.
it clearly needs a hell of a lot more to run with big sort of video and audio assets in the file.
Yeah.
You know,
It's like
they're
hitting a review button.
kneecapping their own performance in the
Mhm.
tool by not just starting again at a 64-bit base. It's madness. Meanwhile, you've got other players, Chameleon, Evolve, not really Adapt, they're not really a commercial player, but all these other kind of either web-based or sort of rapid development tools are really closing in now. Like they
Yeah.
are attracting more and more of an audience, and obviously they're not going to overtake Storyline next week. Of course, they're
No.
not. But they are eating away at the goodwill that these platforms have enjoyed. Like
Yeah,
there is
I'm
now.
impressed by Chameleon.
This is it. I really like what. Like, is it perfect? No, of course it's
No.
not. It's a fairly new product, but it kind of feels like it's got some energy about it, and it isn't painful to use.
Yeah, I can
You
at
know?
least do great in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
Because the energy is sapped in Storyline trying to do basic things and having it take 10 times as long as it should. So I'll trade that off any day.
Bear in mind that was Storyline's original competitive edge over Captivate. You can create great stuff quicker. Cool,
Oops.
because Captivate's overly complicated. Oh, is that right, Storyline? Overly complicated, you say, to
Right?
do something simple.
Can I print a screen?
How about some accordions? Want to see me build some accordions in Storyline? How incomplicated that is.
Oh, God.
It's just ridiculous. But hey, and we've got sort of hit for coming effects. It's likely their resignation testing in QA, like that. Yeah. Joe Suarez. Maybe 2023 will be the year they fix the ancient bug where the menu items get out of order. Come on, be serious. That's not a bug. That's an interesting and exciting feature to see in what order your menu comes out in.
Right? You know, like green lights are merely suggestions. Same with red. Red lights are merely suggestions.
This is it.
Quit being a conformist.
It's I realized we did not talk about quiet quitting.
Let's save that. Like, we'll do an ID update, or we'll do what the hell? We'll do other things for that. I want that thing to last more than a month.
Yeah, I don't know. We might be disappointed there. Interesting from Phil there, actually. So, EdTech views on Litmos being bought out. Also, Canada's got some big updates, so they say on September 1st. So watch that space for next month. I'll have to check out Canada's. That's interesting. They're local to us. Who's Litmos been bought by? I can't think of a platform that's been bought and sold more than freaking Litmos. Like it just changes hands a lot.
Francisco partners to acquire Litmos from SAP BusinessWire. So this is looks like another venture capitalist. I don't know Francisco partners,
someone with a vested interest in making a good product. They're not just someone in it for the money. And just obviously all businesses are in it for the money. No business is your friend. But
I mean, it was like half a year ago where a whole bunch of things were just bought up by VCs.
Oh yeah. No, I think it's under no illusion that the ed tech industry is not driven by people in the know about education. It's driven by venture capitalist money. Pump your stock and sell is the business model. In fairness, Litmos have done very well at that, and clearly SAP have now done the same with Litmos. That is, to my mind, I don't see an ed tech product out there that is not designed in that way. They are very much a case of strong business model, subscription services, long-term income, and then you sell that long-term income on to a new company that wants to buy in your product once you've got a built-in customer base.
Right.
So what does SAP have now besides success factors? How on earth is that doing better for them than Litmos? Honest opinion, I don't think SAP gives a shit about the L&D industry.
I would agree with that.
I mean, that's not what it always struck me as a weird space for them to have a product in. Like, I get that lots of places have it, but they tend to have it because they're using SAP for their personnel platform and their billing platform and their CRM, all their other stuff. That's where SAP kind of live, really, is in proper systems, not used by the L&D team. Gut feeling, I think they probably want to downscale what they do there and put their money into somewhere where they make more money, quite simply. Yeah, I think I'd agree with Phil there. SAP never really knew what to do with Litmus. They bought it and they kind of went, great, there's all these videos and this platform and e-learning stuff. Give it away with SuccessFactors. It's a massive library of stuff that kind of just gets dumped on users when they buy the platform, and you're like, how many of them really use it? What value is it bringing? Actually managing and updating a content library is a colossal pain in the arse. Like, it is. I speak from experience here. You kind of think, oh, you create a course and you're done. Nah, you're not. Not even close. It's SuccessFactors was sold. I didn't realize that. Apparently, SuccessFactors was sold as the enterprise solution that that Never Say Litmus is a big solution or as good as it could be. Okay, yeah, I agree. So I thought you were saying that SuccessFactors has been sold off separate to SAP. Then that'd have been weird. But yeah, no, I'd agree with that. I can't think of anyone who's ever gone out of their way to go, I want SAP SuccessFactors as my learning platform, and I can't think of any reason why anyone would.
Never came up in the conversation.
Yeah, it's the platform you get because it's what your business has chosen to bring in as part of its SAP implementation.
It's like Cornerstone.
Yeah, exactly. It's there for lack of choice, not for being the one everyone wants, which isn't inherently bad. A lot of the time, the platforms, they may not be ideal, but you can kind of, what crazy stuff do you want to do that actually requires this amazing platform that everyone gets so excited about? Let's face it, 99% of L&D departments shove up some SCORM e-learning on there twice a year and make everyone do it. Everyone hates them for it, and they go, oh, well, they just don't understand, and that's that.
It's the case with a lot of applications, actually. That is not an L&D based thing. Everybody does that.
It's I would suggest that having a snazzy platform would not make that experience any better. Not everyone, I hasten to add, but I'm definitely not a SuccessFactors expert. I think I've only used it a couple of times. Awful on all those occasions, but it hosts SCORM files and it reports, and it connects up to the rest of the SAP ecosystem, which I think is why it's so popular and always will be. As long as there's those direct connections, and the fact that if you're going through an SAP implementation, which I think everyone here has probably done at some point, you don't want to then implement another system. Right. You just want to do the thing once and it all be done.
That's fair. I can appreciate that.
It's it kind of makes sense. But good stuff. That's a good look there. And I think we'll do Quiet Quitting in another episode, maybe next month if it's still alive.
If it's still alive, that's the one I'm really like.
I feel like it's a bit of a flash in the pan thing. Though massive props to whichever HR department came up with it as a way of attacking employees not working for free. Like,
it was a TikTok thing. They started on TikTok.
Yeah, but I genuinely think this came out of a HR environment. It's their kind of bullshit to try and make out that employees only working the hours they're being paid for is some form of quitting. And that you should go above and beyond because you should love the company. You should want to serve the dear leader in all things that you do. It's a rather stark reminder. HR is not there to help you. It's there to protect the company, and companies are not your friends. None of them ever. They're not there to help you. They're there to make as much money as they can. So fair enough. I said we wouldn't go into it, and I kind of have. But yeah, we'll circle back round to it. There you go. Phil is the EdTech man. He's in the product space in EdTech, so he knows far more about this stuff than we do there. I go. That's impressive. A HR department send you emails about your well-being. I do wonder what would happen if you said, "I feel terrible. My job is causing me a tremendous amount of stress." I'm sure they would immediately resolve that problem and not in any way try to suggest that you are the problem.
Yeah.
Sorry, Morgan.
Sorry, Morgan. Also, hi. Well, like,
nice to have you with us.
Is how we go out. Just crappy customer service. Sorry. Crappy.
Well, I guess I'm sorry that he works in HR. I stand by what I said. Wouldn't it be worse if I was like, oh no, I know someone in HR, therefore I completely change my opinion based on experience? Wouldn't that be more disturbing? In the same way that I'm sure there are great individuals that work in HR that want to help people and do help people. HR is an institution. It's not what it's for. It's there to stop businesses getting sued.
I mean, it's the same token. Like, we spent the last 2 hours just bashing our own industry, and I'm sure there are people
exactly.
Like,
have a shot at someone else. Have another shot. Next episode, we'll take some more shots at Apple.
Sounds good. I got
awesome. Right.
Hide that.
Well, that is it. We will obviously be back next month. It has been a pleasure, everyone, as always. Just a few quick reminders about stuff that is coming up very, very soon. Next week. I think, yes, next week, all of next week, in fact, there is a TLDC conference. It's a couple of sessions every day. It's aimed at teachers moving into the L&D space, but there's loads of really interesting chats going on there that I think are, I would suggest, interesting to everyone. I will be doing a panel that week with a couple of exciting people from the industry. I'll pop a link to that in now, he says. Yep, there we go. That should be going out to all channels. On top of that, there are some other cool events coming up. So here on IDT, on the 15th, we're doing a live stream. Feedback across cultures, working efficiently and effectively with foreign SMEs. So we're looking at kind of multicultural communication and how these things can help us be better IDs. On the 30th, I'm speaking at the Anchored in Learning Summit, talking about engagement and why you almost certainly don't have an engagement problem in your business. On the 11th of October, I'm speaking at the World of Learning exhibition in the Learning Live Lounge. I'll be talking about use of video in the flow learning. That is a free exhibition event that you can attend in Birmingham. It's 2 days. It's awesome. The Learning Network have a stand there as well. And then on the 15th of November is the Learning Network Connect 2022. It's our annual conference. Come along. It's amazing. It's a great day out in London. Early bird tickets are on sale now. I think there are still tickets available. So do go and check that out. I will drop a link to to my events page, so you've got access to all that stuff in there. Anything from you, Joey, for the next month?
So no, you're cooler than I. I just started a job at Etsy, so I'm busy for a little bit.
That's cool.
I'm working on that. And I'm writing more stuff for card game stuff, but like ID stuff, I'm like trickling back into.
So just following up, if I've got an order that hasn't been delivered in like a month, like seriously, I can email you, yeah?
Yeah, sure. It ain't gonna help, but like you can.
I can email you.
Yeah.
Just like emailing everyone else at Etsy then. Sweet.
Support team. No, I'm doing email and push marketing for them. So like I'm nowhere close. I can yell. I can yell louder at people.
Can you tell what sort of customer Tom is?
Yeah.
What do you mean you can't help me? You have an email address. God damn it.
No, fine. All right. I'll send you another email address that also has an email address. It sends you through the pool of nonsense that most support teams and major companies have.
Nice. No,
Have
that's
fun.
fair enough.
Have a
Awesome. Well,
ball.
until then, thanks so much for joining us this evening. It's been a pleasure, or this afternoon if you're elsewhere, or this morning if you're somewhere else again. Yeah, been a pleasure, and we shall see you all next month.
Yep. Cheers, everybody.
Well, that's an awkward pause. Let's end the episode, shall we? Bye.
Bye, everybody. So long.